Good day. Welcome everyone to this online class discussion. Now we are going to discuss about economics of price determination. Our objectives for this chapter are the following. We're going to summarize the traditional neoclassical economic theory of price determination. We're going to delineate useful concepts for actual pricing decisions. The profit maximizing firm. Profit is maximized to the level of output where marginal revenue, or what we call price, is equal to the marginal cost in both the long run and the short run. Challenges to the profit maximization objective. Here are the following. Profits are not the only objective of managers of the firm. The actual objectives of the organizations are determined by a wide range of personal objectives, pressures, and constraints from the external environment. What is maximization of profits? It is the goal of some managers, maybe to simply attain satisfactory profits. Establishing pricing objectives. In establishing pricing objectives must be set within the overall corporate objectives. Pricing objectives must also be consistent with overall marketing objectives, and pricing objectives should be consistent with and advance corporate and marketing objectives. Profitability objectives. Pricing objectives need to be measured precisely in order to be able to assess performance. Profitability objectives meet this criterion as they may be expressed in specific dollars or percentages. Four basic elements of profitability. First, price per unit of each product or service offering. Second is variable cost per unit of each offering. Third is the volume produced and sold of each offering. And the fourth is monetary sales mix of the offering sold. Profit maximization. Depending on the situation, maximum profits over a planning period may be obtained either by pricing the firm's offerings relatively low or relatively high. Which strategy to follow depends on the nature of the market demand and competition. Target return on investment, or what we call ROI. ROI is the ratio of profits to investments. For manufacturers, investments include capital, machinery, buildings, land, and inventory. For distributors and service firms, inventory and buildings are the majority of their investments. An ROI objective can be expressed as a specific percentage of the investment, or what we call capital employed. A variation is target return on sales. Volume-based objectives. Revenue or sales growth, prices are set to increase demand and unit sales. Market share, prices are set to increase sales faster than competition or to reduce a sales decline to be slower than competition. Here are our competitive objectives. First, price stability. As a market leader, the firm attempts to keep prices from declining, usually found in mature markets. This leads to non-price competition. While aggressive pricing, price below competition to take advantage of market changes when market demand is growing or when opportunities to grow market share. When to use price? You're going to use price to achieve profit objectives when the firm is the low-cost supplier, the firm is the price leader, there is an internal required rate of return for new products, there is a short lead time for new products before competitors enter. Use price to achieve volume objectives when the market is price sensitive. The firm is the low-cost supplier. Cost decline as volume increases. There's a strong captive aftermarket. There's a growth of market segment. There's a little differential perceived value, and also to limit competitive entry. We are going to use price to achieve competition objectives when the firm is a low-cost supplier. There are no perceived value differences across the sellers, the minds of buyers. Market share could be captured using non-price marketing efforts. Overall, there is no one apparent pricing objective for a specific set of market conditions. A profitability objective does not specify either a high or low price strategy. Using low price to pursue a volume objectives must be viewed as an investment over several years. The significance of being the low-cost supplier is it allows the firm to invest in non-price marketing efforts. It is not a license to use price as a key competitive tool. Market structure, degree of competition, perfect monopoly. It means one supplier supplies the product or service. Perfect competition, when many sellers offer many buyers an identical product with no seller can influence price. While for imperfect competition, there is large number of sellers and buyers. There's monopolistic competition or oligopoly. Monopolistic competition. Large numbers of firms market heterogeneous products or different products. The greater the degree of product differentiation perceived by buyers, the greater is the opportunity for competing firms to set different prices. Oligopoly. It means few sellers dominate the marketplace and have substantial influence over the prices of products. It arises because the need for large economies of scale in certain industries discourages competition. Now we have here characteristic of market structures. In the first column, you'll see the market structure. The second column, we have the degree of competition and product differentiation, while we also have examples in the third column. While in the fourth column, you're going to have the degree of power over price. Now let's start with the perfect monopoly market structure. For perfect monopoly, the degree of competition in product differentiation is single seller, unique product or service. We have examples, local utilities and cable TV. The degree of power over price for perfect monopoly, it's considerable government regulation. Now for market structure, which is oligopoly, the degree of competition product differentiation has few sellers, some product differentiation. Examples, we have the steel, chemicals, autos, and computers. For degree of power over price, it's only for some. For imperfect competition market structure, the degree of competition and product differentiation has this. Many sellers, some real or perceived product differences. We have examples, the packaged goods, or we could also have the retail grade. For the degree of power of overprice, this is for some. For perfect competition market structure, the degree of competition and product differentiation, it has many sellers, no perceived differences in products. We have examples, primarily agricultural. Degree of power over price for perfect competition, it has none. We have here the law of demand. Demand is a relation among various amounts of a product that buyers would be willing and able to purchase at possible alternative prices during a given time, all other things remaining the same. When the product's line is raised, fewer units of the product will be demanded. And as you can see in the figure below, you have here the law of demand. Okay, it's illustrated here. The law of supply. Supply is a relation showing the various amounts of a product that a seller would make available for sale at possible alternative prices during a given period of time, all other things remaining the same. When the price of a good is raised, more will be produced. And in the illustration below, you can see how the law of supply looks like in a graph. Equilibrium, the intersection of supply and demand. In well-behaved markets, the supply and demand curves will intersect at some point. An equilibrium between supply and demand is established, producing an equilibrium price, just as shown in the illustration below. Okay, this graph. Okay, the y-axis represents the price, while the x-axis is represented, okay, with the quantity. Bernoulli's observations. From Bernoulli's observations, we can derive two essential points. First, the perceived value or utility of money differs depending on whether it is perceived as a gain or a loss. The magnitude of this perception of gain or loss in value depends on is relative to the individual's previous position of value or wealth. The new classical theory of how price influences buyer behavior. Here, the buyer has two decisions to make. First, what products should be purchased and how much should be purchased of each product. The quantity to be purchased depends on the following. First, the price of the product, the prices of all other products, the income of the buyer, and the buyer's tastes and preferences. Assumptions about buyers. Price influences buyer choice because price serves as an indicator of how much the buyer must sacrifice as an indicator of product quality. If the buyer has perfect information concerning prices and wants satisfaction of comparable product alternatives, he or she can determine a product mix that maximizes satisfaction within a given budget constraint. Demand elasticity. Price elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of the quantity demanded for a product or service to a change in the price of the product or service. And demand elasticity is represented with E with sub D. Okay, the formula is E sub D equals open close parenthesis. Okay, the difference between Q1 and Q2 divided by Q1, then it will be divided by open close parenthesis P1 minus P2, or the difference between P1 and P2, and it will be divided by P1 equals the change of quantity divided by quantity 1 divided by the change of price divided by the first price, or the P1, equals the percentage of the change of quantity divided by the percentage of the change of price. That's demand elasticity. Income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a product or service to change in personal income. It has this formula. EI, or income elasticity of demand, equals the change of quantity divided by the change of income elasticity. It will be multiplied by the quotient of the income divided by the quantity. If EI is negative, the product is an inferior good. As income increases, demand for the good decreases. If EI is positive, the product is a normal good. Now let's move on to the cross price elasticity of demand. Cross price elasticity of demand, responsiveness of demand for a product to a change in the price of another product. And cross price elasticity of demand is represented with E sub C, which has this following formula. E sub C equals the change of the quantity, and then it will be divided by change of PB times PB divided by QA. If EC is negative, the two products are complementary. If EC is positive, the two products are substitutes. Revenue. Total revenue is the total amount spent by buyers for the product or service, or it has this PR is equal to PQ. Average revenue is the total outlay of buyers divided by the number of units sold or the price of the product, which means ER is equal to PR divided by Q is equal to P. Marginal revenue is the total change in total revenue resulting from a change in sales volume. So MR equals the change of TR divided by the change of Q. Price and marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is the result of two forces. First, the revenue derived from the additional units sold, which is equal to the new price. The loss in revenue, which results from marking down all prior saleable units to the new price. If force 1 is greater than force 2, total revenue will increase, but only if marginal revenue is positive. So that means MR is equal to P2 minus Q1, the change of P, divided by the change of Q. Price elasticity and marginal revenue. The relationship between price elasticity of demand and marginal revenue is given by MR is equal to P1, open close parenthesis 1 plus 1 divided by ED equals P1, open close parenthesis, AD plus 1 divided by AD. For generally assumed negative price quantity demanded relationships, revenues will increase if price is increased and demand is price inelastic. Revenues will fall if price is increased and demand is price elastic. Consumer surplus, the difference between the maximum amount consumers are willing to pay for a product known as the reservation price and the amount they actually pay. And we can actually see it in this figure. Okay, we have in the y-axis the represented the price, and x-axis represented by quantity. Okay, we have here the following curves on consumer surplus, the seller surplus, the marginal cost, and of course the demand. Seller surplus, it is the extent to which the trade is profitable to the seller is given by the area above the quantity sold at the price that equals marginal cost. The same here we can see the seller surplus in this graph.